Thank you for that, Abhishek. Thank you very much. Let me get in a word from Ratan Sharda. Ratan Sharda, I we didn't see Twitter in the case of this fake video terming any of the leaders who we just named, the leaders, journalists slash media houses. None of their tweets of what the police has also found out was actually manipulated media. None of their tweets or their handles was marked as manipulated media. Like in the case of Shambit Patra and the others, I mean, where they had tagged something as manipulated media even before the investigation actually began. But in this case, there was an investigation. The video was seen as fake, right? And we didn't see any manipulated media tag come in. Now, the point I was trying to make is what we discussed the last time when the story broke about a clear bias that is shining through with such cases, instances, examples.
Yes. There have been many cases like this. I'll just point out a few. Before I point out, I will also point out one particular point of Twitter's, fighting government. They said we are ready to negotiate. How do you negotiate a law in the country of where you're working? How do you negotiate law? You pay penalties, you get banned, you are questioned, re-questioned by the various governments all over the world. But here you act very smart. That is point one. On coming to this particular incident, this this Zubair, in the name of Zubair, who actually released this particular video, is a supposedly fact checker. He's supposed to fact check others that point out problems or fake news or anything like that from people like us. So for him not to fact check this particular video is typically vicious. Not only that, when he removed the video, when he was called out within a few hours, he simply removed the video. Did Twitter ban him? Did Twitter suspend him? Did Twitter remove the blue tick on him? No. A reputed editor like R. Jagannathan was banned for sharing a video which was very a fact of the particular point, which is obviously true. They didn't doubt the data at all. They said this is hateful. You have to remove it. After 2 days of struggle, he removed it. Then there is a case of Indology, True Indology, which has been banned 3 or 4 times because it just produces data from historical texts without blaming or hating anybody. Then there is one Kashmiri youth who has been banned 4 times. His news portal has been banned 4 times because he speaks pro-India voice. So they have decided to be the judge, the jury. They have decided to be a true publisher. So they have no cover at all. Their bias is very open. Their bias is very clear. I've just given 2-3 examples. I can give a legion of examples like this. Not a single person with so-called liberal view, so-called anti-patriarchy, so-called anti-Brahminian views has ever been banned, has taken been removed. They roam around very cockily. Do you know, even after Zubair removed the particular video, the people like Swara Bhaskar are still fighting for that particular cause, which is lost. Still, Congress people are doing it because now it's on WhatsApp, you cannot stop it. So this attitude of being very arrogant, knowing that Twitter will not act, people will not act, has to be called out. I think this particular FIR is a very good test case of people who spread hate. If somebody like me by error even sends a message, when I come to know it's fake, I apologize, I regret, I remove that video or I remove my message. But none of this is done by these people. Zubair, that means that deliberately created this particular message, though he knew because of fact checker. So he has no cover at all. Then the Wire supposed to be very, very conscientious, very careful, objective news portal. Whether they created the story or tweeted, I don't know. But all these people who are supposed to be takedars of free media and free journalism, and for Twitter not to take any action on these people or strip them of their so-called, dignified position of a blue tick or a journalist, they need to be responsible. And Twitter has to be responsible if it takes upon himself to stop people like Jagannathan or True Indology or a Kashmiri youth. Very simple.
You know what really sort of, as journalists, I'll tell you, Ratan Sharda, what really shocks us is how much of emphasis is paid on fake news, right? And the irony this morning, this Wednesday morning, when we are broadcasting this news and getting you the breaking news update of the FIR is that, I mean, look at the irony. There has been such a dangerous fake news video that is being circulated across India, right? claiming communal hatred and communal enmity that is causing disharmony. And it's happening as we speak, right? Like you mentioned on WhatsApp, right? It's happening everywhere. Now, my problem is, it is the worst kind of fake news where the audio is reportedly doctored, right? It's a doctored
Yeah,
video, and it's happening,
obviously.
it's spreading like wildfire. And Twitter, which preaches to the world about fake news, we are shocked this morning that none of those people who actually posted this video or shared this video through their official verified handles, like you mentioned some political names, you mentioned some TV actors, you mentioned some so-called media outlets, news media outlets, none of them have either been called out, have been tagged as manipulated media by a
Yes,
so-called responsible intermediary, right? Called Twitter. Now, this
yes.
is if this is not hypocrisy and double standards, I don't know what is, Ratan, Sharda. I mean, just looking at the nature of this video, and we saw that video when it came into our newsrooms the other day, and we had our doubts, right? Because elections are coming up. It's very easy to make such a video and spread it, isn't it?
Yes, that's what I'm saying, and it has been going on for for a long time. When we started saying that these social media platforms also need to be controlled, they are also answerable. When finally government woke up and started taking some action, and what is the action? Basically, you're asking them to comply certain laws. So if I have a problem, I can reach out to the social media platform and put out my complaint or get it resolved. Even that they find very difficult. As if they are, as I said, they are law unto themselves. So that is the problem. And this has been happening since long time. And as I said, especially in case of place like Kashmir, where there is we are working very hard to bring in normalcy, where youth of the valley are joining mainstream in a big way. For such youth to be sidelined, for such to be banned, is typically agenda setting, typically supporting people who are supporting separatism. This is more vicious as this Mohammed Zubair video. And that for these people who are in the same gang, who within no time start spreading this fake news, they are not answerable. None of them has regretted. None of them have been called out by Twitter. That's exactly the point. So to be self-righteous, to be self-judging, to be, as I said, jury and the judge on common people like us, and but then claiming that they are above law, will not do anymore. And government has to be strict. When other countries are taking action against this, people are running amok, whether Facebook or Twitter or even Google for that matter have been fined, when penalized, called by their committees, they have to be answerable. And to say that there is a question of freedom of expression, I think this is ridiculous, because freedom of expression does not allow you to spread hate. It does not allow you to deliberately spread fake news. That is the point. If I make a mistake, fine. But when you deliberately doctor and send it out, there is serious issue. And when that people in the know, so-called well-known journalists, go ahead and do the same mischief, and Twitter keeps quiet, then definitely he's a publisher, and as a publisher, he's as answerable to the law as you are,
Okay.
as Republic is.
Yeah.
And who has faced the music, who knows what it means. Even if you are very truthful, you can be penalized, you can be, persecuted. Twitter has not been persecuted, it has not been
Mr.
penalized.
Sharda,
So they should not
Mr.
be any
Sharda, so,
comparison like this.
yeah, yeah. Just stay with me. I have Uttar Pradesh Minister, Mr. Siddharth Nath Singh, joining us on the phone line. Mr. Siddharth Nath Singh, good morning. We hear that Uttar Pradesh is the first state to apply this new rules to make Twitter liable for this fake news story. Can you tell us a little more about this fake news video and the kind of impact it could have?
Well, certainly this is, you see, we are nearing the elections 2022, and therefore the opposition, particularly the Samajwadi Party, which has a track record of, inciting communal violence and communal tension in the state, and then looking to come into power by polarizing. So this is one of their acts. They have tried to do that, and blame the Hindus for creating a tension between the Hindus and Muslims, which isn't the case. So therefore, rightly, the government has applied the law of the land. And since the law of the land also applies to the Twitter also, so this has been, implied, or the case has been registered against them, a FIR has been registered against them. So the law of the land has to play in and to maintain peace in the state. And this is one of the things which we are very proud of in last 4.5 years of Yogi government's rule and the BJP rule that no communal violence has taken place in the state.
Do you see some deliberate mischief on the part of this particular video?
Well, certainly there is a mischief which is quite visible, and it's a contradictory that the first video, the FIR, doesn't speak about Jai Shri Ram, and then those who have acted and the old man has been hit by them are their own people who are known to them, and they are not from the other community. They are the same community people. So all those things have come out through the investigation. So obviously, and the person who is involved in that has a relationship with the Samajwadi Party. So once this has been established, so you do conclude that this is an act of Samajwadi Party, a mischief to create a communal tension in the state.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you think this is just the beginning, Mr. Siddharth Nath Singh, because it comes a few minutes after we broke the story of Twitter losing its legal shield? Now, the point is also these social media platforms have to be responsible, but there seems to be some sort of double standards on this particular case. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, certainly they need to be responsible, and that's the very reason the central government brought an act that they need to stop this. So they have to be responsible. And at the same time, the Samajwadi Party or anybody in the opposition have their nefarious designs to do so, they can be rest assured that the BJP government won't allow this because the law of the land will apply to all of them.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Siddharth Nath Singh. Look forward to speaking to you once again, perhaps later today. Thank you. Thank you. Siddharth Nath Singh, Uttar Pradesh Minister, they're talking about this fake news story that we were just discussing. I think Mr. Pavan Duggal will be joining us live in a few minutes from now. So the fact is Twitter is no more an intermediary. They've lost their intermediary status by their own move of not choosing to comply with Indian rules and regulations. In fact, we hear, Ratan, Sharda, that the last letter that was written on perhaps the 6th or 7th of June, and they asked for a week's time, and the week has passed, and they have not complied with any rules, or they haven't shown the complete honest intention to comply with Indian rules, right? And the story is moving very, very fast. And I think this is exactly what was going to happen. If you don't follow the Indian rules, then you will be made accountable for fake hate content that you give a platform to. And it's all happening as we speak. Yeah,
I think Twitter is betting on their supporters from the left wing, the neo-left, and the urban Naxals and secular people, so-called secular people, illiberals.
Yeah,
He's betting on them to create a storm for them and to put the government in poor light, and that is the plan, I think.
Got it. Yeah, okay. On that note, I'm handing it back to you for now. Nupur. Amita, I beg your pardon. We'll come back to the story. Looks like it's going to be one of the big stories of the day with the developments, both on the Twitter losing its intermediary status and the Uttar Pradesh government becoming the first to call out the fake news. I think Mr. Pavan Duggal is also joining us. So let me take one question with him at least. He's joining us live now. Mr. Duggal, thank you for joining us. Once again, as far as, by the way, we're very happy and proud to say that NBF, which is the News Broadcasters Federation, and we are part of the NBF, and NBF has complied to the new rules as mandated by the government. And what this tells you is that those who, the irony also is, Mr. Duggal, the irony this morning is that Coup, which is another Indian platform, right? Coup has decided and has complied with all these rules on day one. And it baffles us why it takes so much of time or so much of a deliberation for anybody to apply, to say that we follow the rules, to just tell the government that we will follow the rules and we will comply with the laws of the land.
Well, it's very simple. Some service providers have quickly realized that their power and influence is massive. So if as a service provider, you can go ahead and block the accounts or suspend the account of a sitting president of the United States of America, that tends to give you a massive high. So consequently, you would want to then go ahead and experiment with legal regimes in different parts of the world. You would want to then extend your luck. Now, in India, these service providers have been having a massive honeymoon which extended from 2009 till 2021, where they were given a special exalted status, where they were given statutory exemption from legal liability, and where no consequences for non-compliances were ever going ahead and enforced. But come 25th February 2021, and the entire landscape changed. Why? Because the IT rules 2021 came across. These rules are mandatory. Rule 7 of the IT rules tells us that if you do not comply with the IT rules as an intermediary, then you have to face two kinds of consequences. Number one, you become exposed to criminal consequences for being punished for various offences under the Indian Penal Code and under the Information Technology Act 2000. Number two, the more significant legal consequences that as a service provider, as an intermediary, you will be now stripped of your statutory exemption from legal liability. Now, what's the statutory exemption from legal liability? The law says, look, you're a service provider. You will be dealing with humongous volumes of data. And therefore, there'll be a lot of third-party data which will be under issue, under challenge, or under dispute. So the law gives you a solemn promise. If you comply with the IT Act and rules and regulations, if you exercise your due diligence while discharging your obligations under the law, if you do not conspire or abet in the commission of any offense, and if you are able to remove any kind of an unwanted data once you're called upon to do so without vitiating the original electronic evidence, then the law gives you a solemn promise that, look, everybody in the world can sue you, but you cannot be forced to pay 1 rupee damages by way of compensation. You cannot be sent to jail. Now, once that solemn promise of this statutory exemption was given, now this honeymoon period was going on. But the IT Rules 2021 have actually asked and told you that this statutory exemption is going to evaporate if you don't comply. Now, these rules came into effect from 25th of February 2021, and the service providers were required to comply immediately. For big ones like Twitter and Facebook, who are significant social media intermediaries, they were given yet another 90 days to comply with other parameters under the IT rules. Those 90 days expired on 25th of May 2021. If after that you do not go ahead and comply with the rules, then it's very clear you are testing your own luck. You are effectively trying to ride on your luck and say, look, I will be lucky. Now, for the first time, you've seen political will in the country where the IT rules have not become as mere paper tigers, but are now being effectively enforced. And now with Ghazi Abad Police resisting this FIR, this is going to be the first, not the last FIR. We are now going to see a huge volume of FIRs and criminal prosecutions against those service providers who are going to be non-compliant with the IT Rules 2021.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest example of how if you thought you could take Indian rules and laws and constitution for a ride and thought you would probably get away, then you won't.